Welcome to the March 19th Village of Woodbury Planning Board meeting. I ask that you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Has the board had a chance to read the minutes from the February 19th meeting?
Yes.
I'll offer a motion to accept those minutes as provided.
I'll second.
Any questions?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
First item on the agenda, Pine Ridge Estates, 6 lot preliminary subdivision. No, you're right. I knew I forgot one. Sorry. Has the board had a chance to read the minutes from March 5th as well?
Yes.
Okay. I'll offer a motion to accept those as
I'll
presented.
second those.
Any question?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Better, Claudia? Okay. All right, now we're going to Pine Ridge Estates. 6 lot preliminary subdivision extension it was extended to tonight. So we got correspondence from the applicant, basically that due to economic conditions and all the litigation they went through, they still haven't had a chance to submit updated plans, and they're looking for another 6-month extension, which would bring them to our September 17th, 2025 meeting. Okay, I'll offer a motion to extend the preliminary subdivision till September 17th, 2025.
I'll second.
Questions? All in favor? Aye. There goes the easy one. Next item, Aspen Dental, review and discuss documents submitted to amend ARB for additional signage. Said property is located at Losty Lane in Central Valley and is known as the Village of Woodbury Tax Map, Section 225, Block 1, Lot 34.222. Anybody here for Aspen Dental? Okay.
That's perfect. Thank you.
That would be you. Step on up, sir. Just, there's a little button in the front on the microphone itself. You pull it
On top.
on the top there. And you see a little green light come on. Okay, just your name and
You need the address too?
just what you're here for.
Ken Crabb, I'm a representative of Anchor Sign. They want to, I think the sign is already up. They just want to get, I guess, permission to keep it up?
Yes. So they put the sign up without approval, so that's what they're here for tonight. I think everybody on the board's seen it, right? Kind of hard to miss. It's the second sign on the end.
Okay. So also this sign did receive a variance from the ZBA to allow 2 wall signs where 1 wall sign is permitted in the zone. The sign appears to comply with the code requirements for color, typefaces, size. So the only really technical thing that we ask for is that the applicant confirm on the plan with a note that you intend to comply with the requirements of the code for sign illumination. So that's listed in our memo that was distributed to your team. Other than that, we really don't have any comments other than we've listed the ARB review criteria in our memo for you to consider, and we defer to Kelly on your public hearing and seeker requirements.
So in terms of seeker, you can reaffirm your finding statement that was done for the entire project. If you remember, there was a consistency statement, so you can reaffirm that. GML referral was not required, and a public hearing is in your discretion, but you can waive the public hearing upon a determination that there's no significant impact to the surrounding neighbors or neighborhood given the mass and/or architectural features of the proposed project.
Thank you.
Yep.
Questions for Kelly or Natalie? I'll offer a motion to reaffirm our secret finding.
I'll second that.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
I don't think we need a public hearing in this one, right?
No, I don't think so.
All right, so I'll offer the motion to waive the public hearing. Second question? All in favor? Aye. And we happen to have a draft resolution of approval.
You do. So I will just, lucky me, read you the conditions. So specific condition number 1, all conditions of prior approvals in connection with this property shall continue to be in full force and effect, and this resolution does not supersede or otherwise modify such prior approvals and conditions except as specifically set forth in this resolution. 2, no building permit shall be issued authorizing construction of structures inconsistent with the architectural rendering submitted to and approved by the Architectural Review Board as part of this approval, nor shall any certificate of occupancy issue for any structures constructed except for conformance with such renderings. Any deviation from such renderings will require further planning board review. Prior to the signing of the renderings, the applicant shall comply with the memorandum of the village engineer dated March 13th, 2025, to the satisfaction of the village engineer, and the applicant shall comply with the conditions contained in the February 13th, 2025 decision of the Village of Woodbury Zoning Board of Appeals. And that's it.
Questions for Kelly? I'll offer a motion to accept the resolution of approval as read.
I'll second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night. Next item on the agenda, Madison Property Management, 300 Larkin Drive. This is a public hearing for amended site plan, special permit, and ARB for the conversion of a retail to personal service. Said property is located at 300 Larkin Drive, Suite 102 in Central Valley, and is known as the Village of Woodbury. Tax map section 225, block 1, lot 16.13. Good evening.
David Higgins from Lang & Sullivan Engineering and Surveying. Would you be putting the map up?
I'm just waiting for it to download. The internet's slow, so.
Okay, all right, I didn't know if I needed to.
Nope. I'll pull it off my machine.
He comes with his own tripod and everything.
He does.
I was saying, I didn't get the memo that you had the digital screens here.
Well, if you got the memo, then they wouldn't have worked that night, so.
Yeah, that would have actually been the problem there. If you want to just keep talking while it downloads, I don't know why it's taking so long.
Okay, so this is a public hearing tonight. Have you opened the hearing yet?
Nope, typically we go through what the project is, consultant memos, and then we'll go out to the public.
Understood. Okay, all right, so just a brief description then of the project. So this, the proposal here is to occupy 1,200 square feet of an existing retail building at Larkin Drive. The building in total is 5,900 square feet. Other portions of the building right now are occupied by Orange Theory Fitness, and that's 3,360 square feet, and there's 1,340 square feet right now that would remain vacant. Based upon the proposed use, so this is a tutoring business, Mathnasium. They actually have a business right now in the village of Goshen. They've been open for a little more than a year. And it provides tutoring services to students K through 12, basically all levels of math, from those that are challenged with math, and those that basically are advanced and want to soak it all in. Hours of operation would be Monday through Thursday, 3 o'clock to 7. Saturdays, 10 to 3. The ratio for instructors to students is 1 instructor for every 3 students. I know we have provided information to the board indicating that the students can basically come, they don't come all at once, they're usually staggered throughout the time there. The peak based on that would be 24 students, and 24 students and 8 instructors. Typically, 80% of the parents approximately drop off and pick up the students. It's, the other 20% generally parents would park in the parking lot and go with the kids. Based upon the parking requirements for the retail space and the 5,900 square feet, using the village's parking generation rate of 1 per 200 square feet would require 30 spaces. That is what is shown on the plan, along with 2 ADA spaces. I should note that also that there's parking that's available in the adjacent lots because the commercial center there is covered by a shared access agreement for shared parking throughout the facility. I think that's it. If you have any questions, we have to try and answer.
Questions for the applicant? Phil?
Sorry.
Yes, Philip Greeley. We had a memo from March 11th with 5 comments. The first comment was the information was provided by the applicant describing the operation and the peak conditions. They're estimating a peak of 12 spaces being occupied in the parking lot by this use. They indicated that they're going to provide some additional information on current utilization during the time periods that they will be peaking. to make sure that there's adequate available space. As Mr. Higgins mentioned, there is space available in the IHOP lot, and there's a cross easement or cross utilization easement. The only question is pedestrian accessibility, because I think there's a grade change there. So there's no true pedestrian connection between the IHOP lot and this area. That's something that, should probably be explored in the future, since there's still a vacant space that may have additional parking demand. They did provide information on the pickup and drop-off procedures that were requested, and they're designating some areas or spaces that would be used for loading and unloading. I think, once we see the actual utilization data, then we'll know whether or not the IHOP area would have to be utilized more frequently. So I think there's enough parking in the area, just accessibility to and from.
Questions for Phil?
No.
Adam?
In response to our last memorandum, the applicant provided the site plan that's presented on the screen. We asked for a bulk table to be submitted, which is typical for your requirements for site plans. The applicant is using the setbacks that are part of the pad lot versus the existing commercial center, which appears to result in nonconformities, although the pad lot and the building location were previously approved. So we're recommending, subject to confirmation from council, that the applicant add a note below the legend or the table indicating that, when the pad lot was approved, and essentially noting that these are legally pre-existing non-conforming conditions as they are presented in the table. There are also other notes that the applicant has listed below the table regarding a prior waiver for parking in a front yard, and also a declaration associated with the lot coverage. We weren't able to verify those notes as part of our record, but again, we recommend you confirm with council if anything else is needed on those particular issues. We defer to Phil's comments on parking, which he's already reviewed with you. Regarding the water and sewer, this application is served by the Village of Harriman for water supply and has a direct connection to Orange County Sewer District for sewer. We did take a close look at the applicant's calculations. They're proposing an estimated 320 gallons per day on average. If the existing retail was to remain, it would be about 120 gallons per day. So the net increase is 200, which is less than that threshold under the moratorium. So we believe that this is exempt. Although we also recommend that, per your typical practice, this be referred to the Village of Harriman for a will serve letter, and also that the Orange County Sewer District essentially be noticed on the project. They have not provided will serve letters in the past, but just doing your due diligence to circulate it to other agencies. And then regarding ARB, I think everybody knows that as part of this approval, there's not much changing. There is a new entrance for the existing retail space, and then also the mathnasium. Basically to provide a front and rear egress for both of those spaces, and then a wall sign. So there's not much there. The only question we had was about the existing awnings and what kind of condition they're in. If they're in good condition, then I think they're proposed to remain right now. If they're not in good condition, then the board may want to consider if they should be replaced. The signage you've already discussed and modified the number of colors permitted by code, so that issue is resolved, and otherwise we defer to Kelly on seeker and public hearing. Oh, which is being resolved today,
One
so.
question. Would the front door and back door, primary entrance would be the front door, and the back door would just be the emergency exit?
I think Dave could probably answer that, but that's presumably what I would expect.
Yeah, I know there's a floor plan that was submitted, but I have to be honest, I haven't looked that closely enough to know. But I imagine that would be shown on the floor plan if you turn to that.
That's where I saw it.
Yes.
That was part of the original submittal.
I like the A plus in the sign.
Yeah, because this is the rear.
It was on the pad that showed the whole pad.
Oh, the site plan?
This one, Mike?
No, the top page.
this is the, whoops, this is the layout there. There's actually really no way for them to come in the rear anyway. They'd have to go walk through Wendy's.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So they couldn't really use the rear entrance anyway.
I wouldn't expect them to, but
Yeah. I guess,
so that, and you had, displayed, you had three, you had all three, units in there?
right? So this is the 3. This is the proposed floor plan.
Yeah, so there's a rear and front entrance
So
for
there's
each
the-
of those spaces.
And then this looks just like rear house. It just looks like bathroom, stuff like that.
And then there's the door in the back.
Yeah.
And matching the rear door we use for emergency egress,
Right.
you know.
I mean, it has a panic bar on it now.
I just don't want people trying to get in through the back door and then having problems with traffic like that.
But there's no road back here.
Okay,
There's, it's a wall, it's like a service way.
okay.
Because it backs up to the Wendy's parking lot on the other side. So you have Wendy's, a curb, the service aisle, and then the back to the building.
All right.
That answer your question?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Any other questions?
Nope.
Kelly?
Okay. So this is a type 2 action, so the board can make it a type 2. The GML report was referred and received as a local determination, and tonight is the public hearing.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Kelly?
Nope.
I'd say sit down, but I don't think anybody is gonna. So I'm gonna step back just in case. So I'm gonna open the public hearing for Mathnasium. Anybody here to speak on the Mathnasium application? Don't all get up at once. Second call, Mathnasium. Third and final call for Mathnasium. I'll offer a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, I'll also offer a motion to type this as a type 2 action under SECR.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Anybody have any real concerns? I mean, I think we've all seen that parking lot. There's plenty of parking there, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be an issue.
No,
No, right?
no.
Okay.
With the
We
rowdy
just
ass people.
happen to have a draft resolution of approval. I think, Kelly, we'll just, the items, the footnotes that need to be, we'll just make those conditions on.
Okay, I put it,
You did already?
I think so. Yeah, I think the one that you're talking about. I
You read
think.
my mind.
Okay, so all conditions attached to the original grant of site plan and special permit approval and all subsequent amendments, including but not limited to the previous resolution for Radio Shack. I think this was Radio Shack.
Yeah, it was a radio show.
Okay. As well as all seeker findings are to remain in full force and effect, and this approval is subject to and conditioned upon satisfaction of the same as if those conditions were set forth herein at length. Number 2, prior to the signing of the plans, the applicant shall comply with the memorandum of the village engineer dated March 13th, 2025 to the satisfaction of the village engineer. Comply with the memorandum of the village traffic engineer dated March 11th, 2025 to the satisfaction of the village traffic engineer. Revise the plans to add a note to the plan indicating the date of the pad lot approval and noting the dimensions listed are legally pre-existing non-conforming conditions. And either provide a will serve letter from the Village of Harriman for water or proof that such approval is not required. Number 3, the wall signs shall not be illuminated. And then the very lengthy special permit condition that you have is moved to general conditions. So that's all that I have. Was the pad lot the one you were talking about?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Questions for Kelly?
No.
I forgot one apparently.
No, it's not that you forgot anything, but about the awnings, I know it sounds silly, but when they're complying with our memo, I just want to make sure we're good with what's there, or?
I mean, I was over there last week. They don't look like they're falling apart.
They're good? Okay.
Yeah, they actually did some work to that building not too long ago. They
Okay.
painted and cleaned everything up
Okay,
over there, so.
good. Just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yep, we're good. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Good, okay. So I'll offer a motion to accept the draft resolution as read.
I'll second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Have a great night.
You too.
All right, we're rolling that.
Next item on the agenda, Monroe Commons, review revised materials for proposed site plan, ridge preservation, and water quality protection overlay for clearing and grading associated with development on adjacent property in the town of Monroe. Said property is located on Ninninger Road and is known as the Village Woodbury Tax Maps, Section 225, Block 1, Lot 30. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Jacqueline Cohen. I'm an associate at Zarin and Steinmetz. Here tonight on behalf of Monroe Manager LLC. Also with me tonight is Mark Seamers from Zac Valley, project engineer. So we're back here tonight in connection with a site plan application for the Monroe Commons project. This is specifically for clearing and grading on a parcel in the village to accommodate parking and access roads for the commercial development to be developed on the adjacent parcel in the town of Monroe. So we last appeared before your board in December. Since then, we have responded to consultants' comments. At your board request, we did submit some photos showing views from Route 32. We also resubmitted the tree survey for the project, and we did update the lighting and landscape plans to respond to comments as well. So we understand that tonight we have a secret finding statement that has been prepared for consideration. So look forward to answering any questions you may have, discussing some of the points in the finding statement, and ask that ultimately you adopt the secret finding statement as well as schedule a public hearing and authorize a resolution. So we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Does anybody have any questions for the applicant right now?
No.
Phil?
So we had reviewed the seeker findings, and I think in terms of the mitigation and the interim temporary access plans, those are adequate. The applicant, I know, has been working with the Orange County DPW on their temporary permit. Their full permit hasn't been issued yet, but they have been working with them to obtain a temporary access permit. I don't know what the current status is. The county had talked about a two-part permit. The first part was for access for tree clearing. The second part would be then for more involved activities, grading, removal of material from the site. I don't know whether those permits have been issued yet or.
So as far as the first permit goes, the temporary access permit for cutting, so we have submitted the initial plans and we have received comments from DPW. So I understand from our traffic engineers that we're submitting responses sometime this week and they expect to receive the permit hopefully next week, depending on how quickly DPW responds. The second permit for the grading and erosion, we have not applied yet. So the plan in consultation with the county is to apply once we receive the first permit for the cutting.
Thank you.
Questions for Phil? Natalie?
Sure. Kind of following up on our last memo and the discussion when the applicant was last before you, the village as an MS4 must sign off on the SWIP, although there is no impervious surfaces being proposed on the village property or necessarily building within the village parcel. The applicant is required to develop a plan and a SWIP for erosion and sediment controls. We've reviewed that document and provided our technical comments in our memo for the applicant to address. We believe these are relatively minor and include adding erosion and sediment control notes to the plan, extending silt fencing in certain areas, and also addressing the changes in regulations due to the new construction general permit that went into effect earlier this year. Also, at the last appearance, you authorized a referral to the building inspector for a determination as to whether ridge preservation would apply to this project. He has opined that it would, as long as the project is visible from the view corridor. As council has suggested, the applicant did provide some photographs from Route 32 for you to consider. And if those materials are acceptable to you for a determination on visibility, then we think that you can make that finding. The rest of our memo contains suggested conditions of your action, a lot of which mirrors the language in the draft finding statement that's before you tonight for review. So at this point, the applicant is looking for a public hearing. You can continue your seeker review or conclude it if you agree, and then also consider the authorization for preparation of a draft resolution. That's all I have.
Questions for Natalie?
Nope.
I have a question. If
Yep.
we can quickly discuss the soil importation plan. This is the only thing that we have a little bit of a hang up on, and it's really a timing thing.
Okay.
One thing is the only action that's taking place in the village is a cut, and the cut is being brought onto the town property. And you recommend a soils importation plan to be issued prior to a building permit. But if we have a timing issue where the fill location hasn't yet been located for the town work, and we are going to be cutting on the village, so we don't yet have an importation plan, how do we get past that so we can still be issued a building permit to do the work on the village?
Is there anything that's really holding you up from determining where that fill would come from at this time?
Having the contractor determine, fill sites change. There's always change, and you don't always know what's going to happen during construction. We also need the contractor to identify his location. So, we have notes on the plans from the town's secret finding statement on trucking and trucking hours and things of that nature. And the work will be located in the town. So is there a way that we can just have the town review the importation of fill and the truck routes?
Yeah, so, for the board's information, we suggested that that be provided for a couple of reasons. The first is, although the work, technically, it's a cut from the village property and it's a fill on the town property, but the fill could be imported using village roads. So that was the first reason. Once the applicant identifies where that fill is coming from, then you have an opportunity to kind of look at, are there any roads that could be affected within the village? The second is that the importation plan would also specify requirements for the fill to be clean and also list, what those specifications should be to ensure that it stays clean. And we think that that's important because this property, as you know, there's several wetlands. And although the wetlands are not regulated under the village jurisdiction, downstream of the property, the town, the wetlands are connected to water bodies that are regulated under your water quality protection overlay. So those are the reasons that we've suggested it be provided. I don't know. I hear what you're saying. I'm just not sure, once you have a contractor to do the grading, presumably it would be the same for both the town and the village property. And I'm just not sure that they wouldn't be able to necessarily identify where that would be coming from, because it's going to happen pretty quickly, I assume, the two.
Would we open to a bit of a compromise where we put notes basically outlining what you're saying, that clean fill, traffic is to be geared towards county, state roads wherever possible? Could we put notes that are, can be enforced on site?
It's up to the board. I don't take exception to that. One of the things that we kind of went back and forth on was when it was appropriate for this information to be submitted. And I know originally the applicant suggested we don't have a contractor, we don't know where it's coming from. So we thought that building permit would be appropriate. But if, you're comfortable with having notes on the plans that address our concerns, or, what we would suggest be yours, then that's okay. It's up to you.
That's not typically, I don't think we've done that before with fill applications before. We've never just put a note on a plan and been like, yeah, it's okay.
Sure. Well, I think what they're suggesting is the details of the plan would be specified in notes on the plan. So we would make sure that whatever requirements, obviously, I guess the exception would be really identifying where that source of fill is. That's the only thing that's going to be missing. So.
Right.
So it's to the board's discretion. How you want to handle it.
I don't know. It's not something we've done in the past. Typically, we've done. So,
Right, and you have to take into account the circumstances of this one, circumstances of the others that you've done it, and if you want to stray from your procedure that is typical, it's up to this board. While you're thinking about that, I'm just going to jump into my report.
Yeah, go ahead.
So as Natalie and Phil, as they mentioned, you do have a finding statement in front of you. I know you only got it a day and a half ago, so that is my apologies for that. But you do have it. I don't know if you have any questions or comments that you want to make on it. Obviously, these were things that we put in there, but you have to make it your opinion, and any thoughts that you have based on your review of the environmental documents that were submitted to the town, those comments should be included in here as well. We were just really providing you with something to consider tonight for any modifications that you want made to it.
Yeah, it was a lot of paper to read between the two. I guess one question I have for the applicant, I understand there's a alternative that has been presented to the town of Monroe Planning Board that doesn't actually require any work within the village. So I'm kind of curious why that's not a go-forward plan.
So the alternative that was presented to the town planning board was a phased type grading plan, which the town wanted to look at in case we weren't able to move the approval with the village, which we are hoping that we can do. And to do the phased construction while we secure your approval, we showed a one-on-one grading at the town-village line, and anything that was affected by that grading wouldn't be constructed while the lower portion of the project is being constructed. And in order for the board to be comfortable that wouldn't stay that way if we were never able to secure an approval with the village, they wanted to see a retaining wall option that could be constructed, so we could prove that it could be constructed between the proposed parking area and the town-village line. So what we did was we did research on that retaining wall, and we showed a retaining wall that has the ability to be built. There are areas of that retaining wall where it's 30 feet high to 28 feet high, and we don't believe that that's we felt that the grading and having a natural slope that would be green and wildlife would be able to move up and down the slope, we felt that that was a better situation at the back of the property than having a 30-foot high retaining wall.
Anybody here have any other questions for the applicant?
No, I think we should stick with Natalie's recommendations,
Which one?
with the
The
soil.
soil
hear you.
importation.
I'm sorry, with the soil plan.
That we put the notes on the plan?
No, I'd stick with her original recommendation.
That they,
Consistent.
Yes,
consistent with our past practices?
correct.
Right, okay. I agree with you on that one.
So do I.
Okay. Now, I mean, maybe I missed it because we weren't directly involved, but was the visual impact in regards to Woodbury looked at when the clearing is going to take place? Because I understand there's going to be replacement landscaping that goes back, but that's not going to ever take the place of old growth material that's there. And then I know the argument was there's a lot of scrub trees and stuff but there are some trees that aren't dead and that are native to that area. So maybe was that in there? Because I didn't see it.
Yes, I believe the visual was taken into account, what would be seen from different areas. But mainly, in regard to the village code, the pictures that we sent in were the visuals from Route 32, which I believe is the view corridor that needs to be analyzed.
Right.
And the property wouldn't be seen from those locations along Route 32.
Yeah, that information was submitted in the most recent submission. The other information, I think there was an analysis from WP3. I think there was at least one photo taken from that development there. Let me see if I can try to find some of the information.
What was the date of the submission the photos came in?
For the view corridor?
Yeah.
That would have been January 15th.
It would have been attachment A, I believe, to.
Oh, to this-
From January.
Yeah, it was like one of the exhibits. I think it was Exhibit C. Exhibit A, sorry.
I think it's page 13 of this PDF.
So you looked at that from there because of just ridge preservation. Did you do any other visual studies? Again, I might have missed them. I reviewed it a while ago too. For impacts to the village, whether or not it's within ridge pres or not, like you would do in any other visual analysis from a nearby public road? Like, what would it look like in terms of aesthetic impacts with all of that cleared? What would be seen from the public road as they drive by? Did you do any of that?
I believe for the DEIS, we did viewshed analyses from the development that's next to the, or closest to the property.
Yeah, Tim Miller's Associates prepared a visual analysis for the DEIS and GIS.
So we did look at other locations from other village properties. This was for, looking at from Route 32 is for the bridge preservation.
For the bridge preservation.
Because it was the nearest view corridor.
So I didn't reference that in the draft finding statement. I know this isn't what the applicant wants to hear, but if you do, if that is an issue of yours and a concern of yours, taking a look at these photos from ridge preservation, and then I'd have to go back and I would send the board the direct links to the DEIS studies that they're referring to for you to take a look at, to have that section, hold on, which is section M, is it M? M in the finding statement to revise and update that, because it doesn't take that really into account, if that's,
I mean, it's my concern, but I don't know.
I don't know how the
No,
board feels.
I would agree with you on that.
Like it? Okay.
Just want to make sure it's accurate for you guys.
No, right.
Um,
That's, I mean, as far as the whole thing goes, that's, I mean, the biggest concern I have as far as Woodbury goes is what is those visual impacts from 32, given that's virgin land.
Your concern is visual impacts from Route 32?
Mm-hmm.
And the other
And the other view court,
public roads nearby.
public, so that'd be Ninninger. So Ninninger would be the next public road nearby, and by the school.
Dundenberg?
Dundenberg, thank you. I
What's
take
that
take my daughter
circle
there every
road
day, and
that
I
this
couldn't
one
remember the
hangs
name of the
out on?
street.
This one, what's that one?
Indian Woods subdivision.
Indian Woods, okay. Okay, sorry.
Sidebar, or-
No, sorry, so Ninninger and Dunderberg, okay.
Yeah, those
I'll,
would
I'll
be-
look for those specifically.
Yeah, those are the only public roads over there I know of, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
I don't recall that being part of it, if I'm being honest, but, you know, we can take a look, and then if the applicant needs to submit that information, you know, I think if you would agree, Kelly or I can be in communication with them.
Yeah, that's, I mean, no problem with that.
Well, I think the applicant would have to agree, if that's not in there, to provide additional information, because you are not allowed to require additional environmental studies, because you're an involved agency, not a lead agency.
So then we would just have to go based off what was in the original impact
Unless they
statement.
want to submit additional material, yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's in there. I can't speak to that, so I don't want to say, go out and do it. If it's like page 51, there it is, something like that. I couldn't tell you tonight.
Okay. So if anything, I don't think we should adopt the
Well, it would have to be revised.
revised, so we wouldn't be able to adopt it tonight until those
Correct.
revisions are made.
So,
Okay.
okay, did you have any other comments on any of the other sections? Did you want to go through them? Did you want, please don't ask me to read the entire thing.
No, I mean, the rest of it is fairly straightforward, and, I mean, I just, no, I think that's it.
Okay, so stemming back to the ridge preservation regulations, I did have, as my usual, in bold italics, mitigation measure A2, it deals with ridge preservation, so when you look at this, you're gonna have to consider that as well to see if, what I put in here is that you waive all requirements of ridge preservation in accordance with the code, saying that it's not gonna be visible from the designated view corridor, so when you're relooking at this, keep that in mind, because that will either have to be in there or we'll have to address it. Oh, and I had a typo. The applicant should write this one down too. I had a typo in B4, mitigation findings, where it talks about the easement, and then I said that we were assigning the maintenance responsibility to the town.
Oh.
And that's wrong. It was supposed to be to the town parcel. So when I reread it, I was like, oh, Monroe's gonna be pretty mad, but no, it's just to the town parcel. And I just wanna see if I have any others. I don't think I had any additional revisions. I'll look at it like 40 more times and probably have a couple more red lines, but that's all I have for tonight.
We also have one other thing we wanted to cover in the traffic section, mitigation measures. And looking at page 8, it's the mitigation measure that refers to full combination control signalization and pedestrian controls shall be included at these intersections, subject to OCDW approvals. So I understand from our traffic engineer that we're not proposing pedestrian controls at the Dunderberg Manager intersection. And I guess that was because there's no pedestrians that go that way. So we're asking that mitigation measure be taken off.
Phil, I defer to you.
So our comment was specific to the entrance because the original plans didn't show any pedestrian controls crossing that area. At Nininger and Dunderberg, I believe there's a right-of-way restriction that doesn't allow you to put in a landing area for pedestrians, so I think that right now is fine. There's a limit.
The side driveways.
At the site driveways, yes.
And I believe there, it shows in the plan, there should be a pedestrian way across the driveway, but not across Manager.
Correct. But the original plans did not show that. That's why this was put in there. I think the revised plans that have come into the county now reflect it.
So do I need to make a change?
It should refer to at the site driveway, signalized site driveway.
I'll make a note to get language from Phil.
Okay.
Did you guys have any others while you're up there?
No, I don't think so.
I'm good.
Apparently Claudia does.
You all right?
So I guess at this point, if you want me to make these revisions, then you would have to table the finding statement for some modifications, and I would suggest then that you not schedule a public hearing until this is done and not authorize a resolution, obviously, if I'm working on the finding statement.
Yeah. Do we actually have to make a motion to table it or no?
No, just let the applicant know you're
Yeah, we're
tabling
gonna
it
table it, sorry.
for further revision.
Yes? Okay.
Yes.
So,
So the finding statement needs to be adopted before we can have a public hearing?
Yes. I mean, the board can consider setting it, but then you would just, it's up to you if you want to do that.
no, I'd rather have the finding statement done and agreed on before we set the public hearing.
Okay. I figured that's what they were going to say,
Agreed.
so.
I'm gonna get myself a better swivel chair so I can go back and forth easier.
Okay,
Okay.
so I'll modify that, I'll get that to the board, I'll get that to the applicant.
Okay. Anything else from the board? All right, thank you. Have a nice night. All right, hopefully, fun. Moving on here. Review and discuss, 159 Route 32 ice cream stand. Review and discuss documents submitted for site plan and special permit to reopen the Dugout Ice Cream Stand. Said property is located at 15932 in Central Valley and is known as the Village of Woodbury Tax Maps, Section 226, Block 1, Lot 9.2. Hopefully there's samples.
Good evening.
Oh, no, Steve.
There will be. Sean Murphy, Highland Mills.
Good evening.
This basically here, we're just trying to reopen what was there. That's been there since the 50s or around that era, from what I'm told. It was closed for a few years when other groups were trying to develop the property, and they wound up leaving. So basically, all I'm trying to do is just reopen exactly what's there. The building footprint didn't change. The property hasn't changed. And it's been dormant for about 3 or 4 years, which is basically why I'm told that I had to come before you guys and just explain that. I thought originally I needed a special permit. Now I'm not so sure I do, although I know I have to be before the planning board. I believe that with the change of the law last week for the limited commercial zoning, that I am zoned correctly now. So originally I thought I needed a special zoning variance. I don't know if I need that now, but nevertheless I'm here, and I just want to know if I can open as soon as possible. Obviously, they're kind of into the season already, and some of the ice cream stands are already open. So the sooner I can open, the better.
Understood. So basically, the village board adopted to allow ice cream stands and food and ice cream stands in the limited commercial districts by special permit. So you don't need a variance, but you still need a special permit and site plan approval from this board.
Okay.
And this board does understand that the site's been there for umpteenth years. Unfortunately, what happens is it's a pre-existing non-conforming, so we kind of got to look at it again, not as if it's new, but somewhat that it's new. So that's why the reviews have to be done. There are some comments that Phil will go over and that we'll talk about, and some comments that Natalie has. And then it will still be required to have a public hearing because it is a special permit, so that's not something that we, under the law, we're allowed to waive.
You can't, okay.
So Phil, you want to go first?
Surely. So we had a letter dated March 12th. We had 7 comments on traffic and 2 on parking. The majority of the comments on traffic are related to the driveway, sight lines, DOT criteria. However, there's an ongoing application for a hotel on the east side of 32 that could change that. So I believe that those comments almost have to be deferred based on what's going to happen across the street. But we've put them on the record that they need to be addressed. The one traffic comment that's a concern, over the years, the standards have changed. The one comment that relates to both traffic and parking that we're concerned about are the 5 spaces that back out onto Route 32. Those are non-conforming. They don't meet New York State DOT criteria. I think short of going back to DOT and getting revised permits, which are going to be dependent on what goes across the street, I would recommend that those spaces be relocated on the site so that people are not backing out onto Route 32. I think what you could do is put in a grass strip. We'd have to get some no parking signs there. Possibly you could get one space added to that row that you have, I think is 10 spaces there, or, I'm sorry, 6 spaces.
Yeah.
You could probably, have one additional space in that area. But I think if you put in like a grass strip so that people do not park there, we put no parking signs, and then add some spaces on the west side of the lot. The other comment we had relative to the parking layout, as you can see on this survey, the aisle width closer to Route 32 is more than adequate, but as you go further to the west, there's no dimensions there, but it appears to be tight relative to the drive aisle, and I think that needs to be clarified. Also, the spaces need to be striped. I think that's just a standard requirement that the village would have, and since it's a gravel lot, you'd have to maintain those to be restriped every year, every season.
Did you get a copy of his memo? Because we can make sure you get a
Yes,
copy of
I
it.
did, the one
Oh, okay.
from Ms. Barber.
And from
I'm
Phil?
Phil Grilly.
No, I didn't get one from you, sir, I don't believe.
Okay, we'll make sure that you get that.
So, if I can summarize, so these 5 spots that are here, the ones that are in front of the dug, you can give it to them. So those are the ones that people back out, you have to back out on the 32?
Well, not really, because there's enough room to park a car here, and you can back out within the, thank you. You can turn around, but I understand what you're saying about that, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
If you don't want those spots, you can, there's plenty, and was this the dimension you were looking for?
No, between the spaces, as you, right
Okay.
up closer to 32, you have more than adequate width, but there's like a pinch point as you go to the west there, where
Between
the
the
handicap
handicap
spaces are.
Right, oh, I see what you're,
Yeah,
Here, right here, right?
yes,
Between the handicap and number 10. It's-
yes.
right.
I'm pretty sure it'll work. I've
Yeah.
been many summers there getting ice cream, so, but we just need to see it on paper that it will work.
Okay.
So basically wipe those out, you put grass there.
Okay.
Those are gone. And one spot, right, Phil, I think we said?
Yeah, we can fit one spot right up in the,
Or over here, somewhere.
Okay.
I'm sure, you've got enough gravel there, I'm pretty sure
Plenty of room there.
Yeah.
you could find another spot or two there, no problems.
and I think with the area that, if you're gonna grass that area, your impervious is not gonna change.
No, I don't think,
significantly,
they've got
so-
2-acre sites, so I
Yeah.
think they're good on coverage. So just some really minimal,
So those are the things that are
Minimal
immediate.
changes.
And then I think we would want to put a condition that they would agree to coordinate with what transpires across the street,
so
just so
just,
that we have.
there's other projects going across behind the SMA over there. So when Beer World was looking to go in here, there was a coordination of work that had to get done so that there weren't conflicts between people coming out of the potential hotels across the street and this establishment. So what we're saying is we'll just put a condition on any approval that you don't have to do any of that work now, because we don't know what's going across the street. But when those projects go further down the road, there would have to be coordination between you and the projects across the street. There may be potential, the DOT may require work
So
to
they
get,
may move the road, is what you're saying?
the road may get realigned, the intersection may move a little bit,
There's some widening.
some
on
widening.
32
There's a lot of
that's
stuff in
proposed.
flux right now.
Yeah.
So instead of putting that on you, saying we're gonna make you make all these improvements that may have to change anyway,
Right.
let's, may or may not come to fruition.
Okay, no problem.
So, like I said, the only thing we would need to get done is those spots. Everything else, we would just say, listen, as those other projects come down the road, we'll coordinate, you'll have to coordinate with them and the DOT, and then we'll have to work out whatever needs to get done. Maybe nothing needs to get done, we don't know.
I understand.
One other question. The local law, as I understand, we recommended that we approve only ice cream stands, that the board approve ice cream and food.
Yeah.
Is your intent just to remain ice cream, or?
Well, it always
If you
was,
wanted to go to food, then there would be another approval required.
well, the stand always had just light food, burgers and hot dogs and stuff, and we wanted.
It's always been
to do
there.
that. You can even see on the sign, it says hamburger, but, so we would like to do light food, fast food, really. The majority of it is ice cream, but, from past operators that I've spoken to, you open at 11 in the morning, you kind of do a little bit of lunch from like 11 to 3, and then more ice cream in the day, or as the evening goes
I
on.
just think that if that's in your intent, then it should be explicit.
Yes, we do plan on doing some light food there.
Yeah, hamburgers, hot dogs,
That's it.
french fries, stuff like that. Okay.
As long as you're primarily ice cream, and
Yes,
that's
we are.
accessory, then you're allowed under the new law.
No steaks and ice cream?
No steaks.
No lobster or anything, no?
Yeah.
Good porterhouse and some soft serve.
I mean, it sounds delicious.
Sounds delicious to me. We have any questions for Phil with, okay, Natalie?
Sure. So now knowing that the village board did adopt the local law last week, we'll
Oh,
update our
surprise.
memo. Yeah, I know, right? So that being said, the applicant should confirm that all of the bulk criteria that's listed on the plan matches what was approved by the board last week. The lot area, I think, is listed as 4 acres, but I think it's 2, so the applicant should make that update on the plan. Also, technically, this application is subject to net lot area calculations as described in the code. Those should be reviewed in the plan confirmed complying, although I don't think that there's really any restrictions on this site that necessarily would impact that, but for the applicant to do their due diligence. One of the things that came up during our review is that setbacks from county and state roads are required to be 50 feet, where the existing is approximately 46. So we recommend you refer this to the building
was gonna say,
inspector
we'll just refer
for a
it to pre-
determination that's legally pre-existing non-conforming. Let's see. Similar to kind of Phil's comments about parking, I think we've already kind of addressed the 5 stalls there. The code does restrict parking in the front yard. So there may be some other stalls that are impacted by that unless you want to refer that also to the building inspector for a determination
I think we should.
as to whether that's a pre-existing.
Well, as a pre-existing.
Okay.
Am I bound by how many spots? Do you need a number of spots?
So the village code presumably, or the village board, when they adopted the law last week, presumably has requirements, specific requirements for how many stalls you'll need to have. And I'm not exactly sure what that specific criteria is right now. You may know better than I.
I think it's based on occupancy.
It's
The
the
problem
same
is I don't have an
thing
occupancy.
with the handwritten note from Phil.
Okay, so then it's based on the customer service area and the building footprint, I think. So, we'll button up our review and make sure that the number of spaces that you're showing complies with the law that the village board adopted last week. But you should also look at that too, in case there's any amendments that need to be made.
Can I just pause you for a second?
Sure.
Being you have the room in the back, it may just behoove you, because you got to update the drawing anyway.
Yeah.
Just as many spots as you can get that will work, is just put them on.
Yeah.
And then we don't get into I think that just makes the most sense there.
Yeah. So that front yard setback line, where that is, any parking stalls that are ahead of that should be moved to the back. All right.
So it would be these 2 here and this 1.5?
Yeah, well, and actually, it's supposed to be 50 feet, so maybe a couple more, right?
I think, like I said, I think if the applicant
Yeah.
does the drawing in the back,
Yeah,
he
I
can
think
make
so
up,
too.
he can make up for it.
Plus, if I get rid of these spots, there's my 50 feet right there. They're saying, oh, no, that's that dimension, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are 3.5 feet short.
Yep.
But
Yeah, again, and then it'll be referred to the building inspector and likely not an issue. Okay, we did have some questions about some of the paved areas on the site, like directly in front of where the handicap stalls are shown. I'm not sure if that is, is that just a paved island?
well, it's millings that we're gonna roll out. I don't know if we were planning on blacktopping it, but it'll be something better than gravel.
Okay, so probably show whatever your proposed condition is there, and that would be removed, presumably.
Question, if he kept it millings, is that considered impervious? And then the pavement would be pervious, right?
Technically, all parking areas are impervious, no matter what they're surfaced as, so the gravel is considered impervious.
Okay, I just don't want
It's
the,
a pervious pavement.
Yeah, well,
Look at my
I don't know, the
engineering
parking
pro-
area.
so it doesn't matter that he's got pavings there now if it goes to asphalt, it's not
No.
gonna change anything?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, just wanna make sure we're getting
Yeah.
all the
No, that's good.
i's and t's dotted and crossed here.
Obviously, the water and sewer connections, they're existing to remain. We have asked the applicant to provide 1 year's worth of water bills for you to consider an appropriate average day demand, and I know you've already reached out to the water department for that information, so we'll expect that in your next submission. We've listed some landscaping provisions in your code that may be applicable to the site, and again, in the past, you've looked at these sites and their existing condition and determined whether or not it's acceptable to you or whether or not they should be improved, so that's something for the board to consider. I don't think there's any changes to lighting being proposed. The applicant should confirm that for you. And if the existing conditions are acceptable to you, again, whether or not it should be improved. Same thing with refuse locations. If no improvements are proposed, then you should consider if the existing condition is acceptable. And then I don't think the applicant should also confirm, and I think this is true, that there's no changes to the building facade that would, then rise to the level of an ARB review for you.
You're just gonna paint it maybe?
That's it, just me.
Okay.
And we just defer to Kelly on seeker comments.
I'll jump in. Okay, so seeker, this is a type 2 action. The matter was referred to the county planning, but we haven't gotten a response back yet. A public hearing is required, and the only comment I had for the applicant was that we also needed an entity disclosure form for Kimbrook investors. Yeah, so we just need them to fill one out too, and then I have no further comments.
Does anybody have any other questions for the applicant or for?
No.
Councilor?
So when basically you just want to keep the existing business the way it was, like a walk-up, just walk up.
That way, I just wanted to just reopen it. I know everybody, I'm sure everybody in town wants to reopen.
Yeah, so it's a walk-up business, no seating, no,
No, like, well, there's gonna be some picnic tables, I'm hoping.
I meant
just like
inside.
there was.
No, I meant-
No, there'll be nothing inside. And like, if there were picnic tables there, and I could put that on there. They would be right in this area here where they were in years past.
Okay.
And I'll make sure that on the updated, plans that, I draw something where you can see where they are.
Yeah, that's all I ask you to do, is everything that you plan on having there the day you open or you want to open is reflected on the plan, so we don't get caught up on something like that. All right. All right, so I got a bunch. So I'm going to, first thing to do is I'll offer a motion for referral to the building inspector for all determinations on pre-existing non-conforming.
A second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll offer a motion to type this as type 2 under secret.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
I'll offer a motion to schedule a public hearing for April 16th.
Motion, second.
Second, question? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, I will also offer a motion to have council draft a draft resolution of approval.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So you have to have everything in by,
Next week.
unless someone else has got their calendar, the 4th of April.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, you good with everything you need to
I
do?
think I'm good, I know everything, and, hopefully I'll have everything, and if the public's, maybe we can get it done next month, and
Well-
as soon as you say go, I can go.
Yeah,
And if Steve has any questions, he can give us a call.
yeah,
Great.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, have a good night, sir. Hartman, 2729 West End ARB, review and discuss documents submitted for ARB and ridge preservation for 2 proposed single-family dwellings on adjacent vacant properties. Said properties are located at 27 and 29 West End Drive in Highland Mills and is known as the Village of Woodbury Tax Maps, Section 235, Block 1, Lot 5 and 8. Just give me 1 second, Larry. Phil, if you want to take off. Sorry, there's no more traffic, and I know Phil doesn't want to hang out with us too long tonight.
Good to see you, Phil.
Sorry, Larry, go ahead.
Good evening, Larry Hartman, Hartman Design, presenting clients, as I said, develop two single-family units, houses on these lots, 27, 29 West End Drive. We were in front of this board back in September of 2024. At that meeting, the board asked a couple of things. Number one, they wanted to the houses to be a little bit more different than each other. Most of us at that point was a little bit more, let's go for modern style. So they wanted to add more roofs, more lines, which we did. Additionally, the board asked for the square footage was 26% bigger. The board recommended that 20% be a good number, so we reduced it by taking off a portion of the basement. The footprint stayed the same. The footprint is only 8% bigger than the neighboring house. Additionally, the board asked to see 3Ds from actual 3Ds. I believe this is the older one.
This is from February. Is there one after that?
Okay, so maybe it's the next page. The board asked to do an actual 3D from the homes, as they would see, because they're down in the ditch, kind of, they're sloping down. And we did that as well. I believe this is an older version, so I don't see that.
All right. You think you have one in?
I have both of them, that's the older one.
Yeah, there should be an October submission, October 31st, 2024.
I don't know why I don't have it.
You want me to send it to you real quick?
Can you please?
Give me a second.
1 second.
Wow, now the pressure's on.
Yeah. Got a Snickers? Damn it, I thought I looked this afternoon too to make sure I updated my OneDrive.
Send.
Thank you.
I've was quick. I got nervous that I didn't have that. Go on.
So why don't we pause? Why don't we go, Natalie, why don't we go to your report while I'm waiting for it to come over, and then we'll come
Okay,
back.
sure. Kind of just picking up where Larry left off at the last appearance, you asked the applicant to reduce the size of the homes. They have eliminated or created like an unexcavated area in their basement to reduce the size, but we're not sure that that's necessarily what the board's intent was if you were concerned about, the mass of the home above grade. But I do agree that the rendering that you're going to pull up about, what's visible from the street because of the slope at the rear of the property is helpful for you to kind of consider how that's going to look. So that's that rendering at the top there. Let's see. So Larry already went over how the size of the homes compare to other properties, 8 to 53% larger in consideration of building footprint and 20 to 66% larger in consideration of gross floor area. They've modified their colors and materials of the proposed home or homes, and we recommend you consider that to your satisfaction. And not in this submission, but a prior submission, the applicant provided photos of those other comparison properties for you to consider similarity and dissimilarity. We did have a question about the ARB forms. They both list desert tan siding, but it looks like they're slightly different in the renderings. So I'm not sure, if that's just something that we're asking the applicant to confirm. Is the siding supposed to be the same or different, and then something needs to be revised. You've already discussed ridge preservation and determined that the homes were not visible from the view corridor. As part of your review as the Environmental Conservation Committee, you asked the applicant to stake the clearing limits in the corners of the home on the property. I think that you guys have all reviewed that in the field, but if there's any conditions that you want to bring forth for the applicant, we recommend you discuss that. The water and sewer demand forms were revised per our prior comments, and we defer to council regarding impacts under the moratorium. Easements for the sewer are required. That's going to be a condition of your action. And I think council previously indicated that this is a type 2 action, but I'm not sure that the board acted on that. And I think that the public hearing requirement still needs to be decided as well. And that's all I have. I
Thank
think
you.
it's more of a,
Questions for Natalie? How do we feel?
I think they look pretty good.
I think the street view rendering helped
Yeah.
because of how less visible the homes are from that end of the block.
All right.
Public hearing? No?
I don't think so.
Okay. So I'll make the motion to waive the public hearing.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm sorry, Larry, I know I cut you off mid-speech when you were talking, because did you have anything else to add? Okay.
He's
You
like,
sure?
no, you are on a roll.
Yes, it's the multitasking. I have to get a RAM upgrade. Any other concerns, comments, feedback for the applicant? Reduce, changed style, colors a little bit?
They look good.
Okay. All right, so I'll offer. What?
Type 2?
Oh, come on. All right, first I'll make a motion on this is a type 2 action on the secret.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I still have Ridge Pres open.
Do you?
Yeah.
All right, so then we'll remake the motion that based on the information provided by the applicant, these houses aren't visible from the view corridor.
I'll second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now I'll make the motion to have council draft a draft resolution of approval.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Did you just go aye? I thought I just heard you say aye first. Like, Larry's getting in on it now. He knows we're down a couple of people. All right, don't go anywhere. Because next one's you too, isn't it, Larry? Yeah, he's changing boards. Okay, Hartman, twin home model for Golden Hills. Review and discuss materials to amend the site plan, ARB, and ridge preservation for proposed duplex residential dwelling located within the active adult community phase of the Woodbury Village subdivision, previously known as WP3. Said property is located at 49 and 51 Southfield Falls in Central Valley, is known as the Village of Woodbury Tax Map, Section 255, Block 6, Blocks 9 and 10. Welcome back.
Good evening. Larry Hartman, Hartman Design. This is on the WP3 development. This was also back in September. At that meeting, basically quick overview of the project was a while. Basically, this project is the senior development and the WP3 development. They're proposing to do a duplex home instead of two single ones. The size of the homes basically is going to be a little bit smaller than what it is, the neighboring homes, but they're going to be put together. And so there's going to be more space on the two sides rather than the way they are right now with only 20 feet in the middle. At the previous meeting, the board asked a couple of things. They asked us to add additional shrubs and landscaping, which we did on the 3D as well as on the side plans. Besides the ones on the street, to add a little bit soften up the elevation. On top of that, the board asked to see the two type of duplex homes that is going to be. Typically, those senior homes are set in a T configuration, which means the private road or driveway has a T. So we wanted to see how a duplex is going to look when it's parallel to the T as well as perpendicular. So we did do a full detailed of two of the homes, how it's going to look. The rest of it is all going to be the same, because that's the typical configuration of the senior development. We did remove the stairs in the basement, so now there's only one stairs in the basement.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to do it, I guess they're gonna have to come back to the planning board. And we did, they're gonna sell this home, so whichever owner wants it. Additionally, we did do a bigger site plan. We did do new 3D models from the rear and from the sides, which the board asked for. The capacity stayed the same. The elevations basically stayed the same. At that point, we had a couple of different options, and the board liked more of those two, so we're staying with these two. I believe that's about it.
Questions for Larry?
Just refresh my memory, how many bedrooms each side is?
2, right?
That's the seniors. Let me take a look at it.
I think they're only limited, they're
I
limited to
think you're
2.
limited to two.
It's
They're limited to
2
2.
for each,
Okay,
yeah.
that's why I'm asking.
And I think that I think the floor plans say an optional second, like I think it's the master and then optional second.
Okay.
but-
Yeah, it's either study or a bedroom, whichever the one is.
No music or Costco room this time?
No.
I love the Costco. I love that room.
I know, everybody
I
likes the
want that in
Costco
my
room.
house. We all need one, right?
We do, actually. Natalie?
So I'll just try to be brief. So right now, the applicant is proposing these structures on 12 lots, so it would be 6 duplexes. With regard to compliance with zoning, our comments on the bulk criteria, we've asked the applicant to confirm the coverage calculations, comply with zoning for the most restrictive criteria. So some of the lots are slightly smaller than others, so we'd just like them to perform that analysis for the smallest lots, and we've listed them in our memo for the applicant to consider. We've also noted that placement of the duplex homes parallel to the T drive appear to change the designation of setbacks. So, you know, where the homes at the end of the drive, the rear yard would have been at the back of those homes, and you would have had a 20-yard setback there. Now it's technically a 0-yard setback. The way that the homes are positioned, or at least in the site plan that was provided for that parallel option, it is complying still with that setback, and we think that they probably could manage that, you know, no matter where they're placed. But we think that's appropriate, because if they don't, then somebody at the rear parcel, you know, would be impacted where that home would be closer, where otherwise it wasn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's something that, you know, the applicant should confirm with you, and also, again, that we think should be a condition of your action. They are presenting 2 model homes for the duplexes. It appears that each model home is proposed to have 2 color palette options. Is that true? Okay.
When there's
Right, well, in that case, I think that, like, for instance, the two that are opposite each other, it would be either or model.
Yeah,
And then,
different model.
and then the colors too, I think. Is there technically 4 color options?
No, I believe there's only two sets of colors.
Okay. Okay. Then the applicant confirmed that the second-story attic is to remain unfinished. Something that's come up with the building inspector is, for the board to consider what level of finishing for unfinished spaces is appropriate. So I think that that's something that you'll want to consider, like, for example, in an unfinished space, can the walls be dry-walled or should they be open with insulation type of thing? Or should the flooring be, could it be concrete or could it be, finished in some way? So that's something I think that maybe you want to like mull over a little bit and then, talk to John potentially and get his feedback on. Because I think that's going to be something, that you're going to want to think about for a lot of applications in the future. Let's see. As far as the size of the homes, our memo previously noted that the active adult homes models range from 1,500 to 2,000 square feet in gross floor area. The applicant has stated that that is without a basement, and that's true. And I think the way that they were approved is that the basement for model homes were optional. So some do and some don't have that, but they could.
When you mean optional, you mean they're either built on a slab or built with the poured foundation?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, so that would change the overall size of the home. So one of the things that's difficult, I think, with this application is comparing the duplexes, which are, double the size, if you will, of a single-family home or another home in the area, how that's similar and dissimilar. And I know that the applicant has a kind of opined, and I think they'll probably weigh in on it. Steve's probably like, I'm ready to go.
Don't come sit up front.
Is that because there's no other structures like it, it's sort of inappropriate to say that it's dissimilar in that area, but, you could consider half of the home compared to the models that have already been considered. But again, something also for the board to weigh in on or think about is that the applicant is proposing 6 of these structures, so it's not like one, in a sea of no others, you know what I mean? Anyways, that's my spiel. The applicant did provide the rear and side elevations for each model for you to review, and we think that is important because they will be visible from the roadway, especially when the homes run parallel to the Ts. Under ridge preservation, the applicant provided a photograph of the site from the view corridor in a leaf-off condition. We recommend you consider if that's sufficient for all of the lots where duplexes are proposed. The proposal and the duplex homes will result in approximately 1 acre additional disturbance to the site. So that's something to consider, but, again, the applicant will be required to comply with the original SWIP and the erosion and sediment control measures from the original plan. The clearing limits is something that the board now, I think the applicant is showing the original approved clearing limits versus what will be, now required as part of this proposal, so that's something for you to consider. We do kind of take exception to the driveway configuration for the homes that are parallel to the T. It seems to create kind of like an awkward expanse of pavement where the Ts themselves are meant to be maintained by the HOA, and now the driveways for each side of the duplex kind of marry up to that, and it's one big, almost like a parking lot in front of these houses. So I
A
think.
lot of asphalt in front of the.
Yeah, and from like a maintenance responsibility too. It's like, okay, well, is it my neighbors or the HOAs or, how do they want to manage that? So that's something I think that the applicant should try to consider whether or not they can be broken up a little bit, or create some kind of a distinction from those areas. And then also as far as the one duplex that's proposed along the road, not at the end of a T or along the T, I don't necessarily think that a full site plan needs to be developed for that, but maybe just show how you're proposing the access to those two duplexes, or 2 sides of the duplex.
This one now, this,
Yes, that's the one.
okay.
All right. So again, like, are the driveways going to be separate, or are they going to be one single wide driveway? I'm not sure. So just for something the board to consider. Let's see. As far as lighting, I think the only change now is going to be to the one duplex that's at the end of the T. So that's the most lower one there. And they're proposing 2 light poles instead of where one was previously proposed, and that does cause some spillage on the properties in the front above your typical 0.1 foot candles. I think it's like 0.2 at the property line. So the applicant should explore opportunities either to push the lighting back so that the spillage is 0.1 at the property line, or you would want to consider, some kind of mitigation, I think, for that. Let's see, Larry already talked about the landscaping that is now shown along the front of the homes. T drives do have their own landscaping requirements under the original approval, so if that's proposed to change because of, these revised configurations, then that should be shown or demonstrated for you to consider. With the seeker consistency analysis that was provided, there is a discussion on specimen trees. We think that needs to be updated because at least one of the lots, or 2, that's 50 plus 330 and 360, there are specimen trees on those 2 lots. So some were proposed for removal as part of the original approval and some are proposed to remain. It seems like due to the new configuration, maybe some of those that were previously supposed to be removed could be preserved and, vice versa. So it's something that the applicant should show for you to look at. We talked about the clearing is changing. And then the last thing is about the wetland that's on lot 50 plus 327. So it's our opinion, and I think I provided a map in our memo, that wetland may not have been needed to be disturbed as if just a single-family home was being developed. I think that the plan considered the home being placed in between both the wetland and the drainage course that runs to, I guess it's really the north of the property. But now the applicant, it will impact that wetland. So that discussion, I think, needs to be updated in the consistency analysis, and also it could require an Army Corps of Engineers permit and also a local freshwater wetland permit. All right, that's all I have. Sorry, it's a lot. Well, a lot
Questions
of
for
talk.
Natalie?
No.
Some clarifications.
Sure.
Yes, the one that is parallel, perpendicular actually to the road,
Yeah.
it's gonna have the driveways the same way, because it's just gonna be a straight driveway straight into the garage. So they're gonna be the same as the one that is on top of the T, just the driveway in the center for both of them, connected. We intended, the reason we're doing the connected rather than 2 separate driveways, basically disturbs less, because you don't have that, it's less of it than having 2 separate ones. Regarding the less disturbance, I believe this setup is gonna be less disturbance, because the way, if you ever go over there, the way it's set up now, those lots are really small. When you have 20 feet in between, you basically have to disturb it, and when you build, those land in the middle have to be disturbed. Now, when you put it together, instead of having a house, 20, now you have on the 2 sides there. So it actually becomes disturbed less, versus, because those land in between the 2 houses of 20 feet has to be disturbed about when you build a house. You can't be around
Doesn't the
20%.
blue on that map, though, show the original limits of disturbance? And so now you're,
No, those are the actual, original clearing limits.
The clearing.
The clearing
That's the way it is
limits.
right now.
okay.
But it does, I think all of the plans now indicate that the limits of disturbance, or maybe it was in the seeker consistency analysis, will be increased by 0.18 acres for each individual lot. So it is being increased.
They are less than acre, both of them together.
Yeah, 0.18 acres, yeah, for
Per lot.
each. So then with the 12, it ends up being over an acre additional disturbance. So,
Okay.
practically, it's not making sense, but.
Regarding the attic finish, I believe developers, the way they give finish is unfinished, it's unfinished, they don't provide anything extra for the clients. Typically how the rest of it was done, so basically that's how they tend to do it.
So what are you suggesting is the unfinished look then?
It's usually plywood on the floor, but that's about it,
Plywood for the floors and then,
So that's the attic. What do they do in the basement?
unfinished.
So just concrete and studs, or concrete studs and insulation?
Insulation, and if they have, sometimes they have to put sheet rock on top, depending if it's.
Well, like the boiler room and stuff like that, they have to, right?
What's that?
The utility room, they have to put sheetrock in, right?
But if you do it in TJI or process, you have to do it with tile. And if you do it with cans and pumps, you don't have to. So I believe, depending, some models they do, they have to, respect their ass, they don't have to. They should.
Because I know one of the other concerns that the building inspector has is that plumbing's been, in other, even though the basement is unfinished, there's been rough-ins for plumbing put in. So when they go out to do an inspection, even though it's an unfinished basement, the plumbing is all there already, which alludes to someone's getting ready to finish the basement.
Not always, it's usually if, most customers would want that, and if they want to finish the basement, and I've done probably probably over 50 of them, they would go and file for a permit, they would finish it.
In a perfect world.
Yeah, I've done a lot of that. And they would have to finish, they would finish it, so typically something like that, they would have to get new sewer or new plumbing. At that point, it's only very cheap, it's very to pay a couple $100 to get a pipe in, versus if they have to cut out the whole slab, then it's a whole different ballgame.
You have put in some of your resolutions before that no rough-ins, so
Yeah.
you can think about it. I don't know what you
Yeah,
want your
depending.
procedure to be.
I gotta talk to John.
Yeah, talk to the building
We have discussed
inspector.
that before in the other projects. A project like this, where you calculate the square footage, the mass and everything, it's not that the added square footage, you have to set that. Basically, if somebody, they don't have to come back to the driveway, they don't change a window or anything on the outside. Because,
Sorry, I don't want to get into a rabbit hole, but we're just talking an unfinished basement, so I'm just, making sure we're on the same wavelength.
yeah. Basically, this is a developer, builds a lot of them. He provides them unfinished. If anybody wants to finish them, they have to go for a permit. And quite a bit, I mean, I've done a lot of them.
Questions from the other? Anything else?
So we had asked previously for a consistency statement, which the applicant provided. Obviously, after tonight's discussions, there are some modifications / clarifications that need to be made to that. But what the board can do is, upon receipt of that, authorize the drafting of an amended finding statement, and it won't be anything like the one I just sent to you. It will be much shorter for this project, just because of the limited scope, I'll use the word. Don't use that in the legal sense, use that in the regular sense. I'm looking at Steve. Just because of the limited scope of this particular project compared to the finding statement that was done years and years ago. So I think that the board could authorize that. Obviously, it is contingent upon receipt of amendment, and there will be some bold italics for the board to consider. This went to GML. You received that back. They had several comments. You need to determine if you want to hold a public hearing, and then Ridge Press.
Public hearing, I think this is one that may actually need it. It's a substantial change to the original development.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Okay. All right, so 16th, April, everybody good with that? I'll make a motion to hold a public hearing on the 16th.
Yeah, because it's not a subdivision.
Yeah, second. Second, questions, all in favor?
I'm not gonna be able to be here, so pass over.
Oh, sorry, I don't have my,
I mean, the public hearing, Steve,
you can't be here either. Can you be here, Steve? I'm sorry to ruin your holiday.
Are you sure?
You sure? We can do it in, okay. Sorry. All right, so I'll offer the motion to schedule the public hearing for the 16th.
Second.
Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
And then I'll also offer a motion to have